and we'll be resuming the discussion from here. But right now we have Dr. Khurram Iqbal, who is an international relations expert here with us. And Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Walaikum assalam.
Thank you so much for joining in. I'd like to ask you one question first in the beginning, is that Pakistan is being committed to improving bilateral ties with all the South Asian countries, which we've seen even in the past decades. On the contrary, India is hell-bent on destroying the regional peace. We have seen Nepal having problems with India recently over the territory issue. We did see Galwan issue, and we did also saw how their media tried to mutilate the reality. And we do understand that all the time there's a skirmish. We have seen a recent attack in Karachi, in particular, Pakistan Stock Exchange, which was somehow related to India. There are so many things happening. How do you see it? Is this a one-sided traffic? Why India is not responding in a positive manner, or why it's hell-bent on destroying the regional peace? The Akhand Bharat philosophy?
Well, I guess it is to be blamed for, and coupled with India's political agenda, it becomes a very lethal combination of Hindutva and India's hegemonic expansionist mindset. Both of the agendas go hand in hand, because if you look at the philosophy of Akhand Bharat, or the Greater Bharat, it is basically an expansionist ideology. The geographic contours of Akhand Bharat is stretch from Afghanistan all the way to Myanmar, also including Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal. So theoretically, for the proponents of Akhand Bharat, all these South Asian countries, they're a part of that imagined territory. Mm-hmm. With this philosophy in mind, India cannot actually pursue peace with its neighbors. We have seen that the entire South Asian region have always suffered because of India's expansionist and hegemonic agenda. You have rightly pointed out Nepal. This is not for the first time that the tensions have escalated between the landlocked Nepal and India. 3 years ago, we saw how India imposed
blockade,
an inhuman lockdown on Nepal,
yes,
which resulted in a human tragedy there.
Yes.
Even the food stuff was in shortage there. Then we have seen that Indian intelligence agency has started a new project that is basically the regime change engineering in South Asian countries. They have done that in Maldives. They have done everything basically to challenge the pro-China Yameen there and bring in a president who is very pro-India. Then they try to influence elections there. So these policies would certainly backfire and damage Pakistan's efforts to promote regionalism, inter-regional trade and cooperation in South Asia.
Well, do you think we should, Shiraz here, Doctor, do you think it's important for us to keep on bargaining the same deal as far as the regional peace is concerned, as we see that India is not budging as far as its warmongering is concerned, its expansionist policies are concerned? So in comparison, how do you weigh the Pakistani response and then again the Chinese intervention as well?
Pakistan's response has been quite balanced so far, very pro-peace. But I think as the situation evolves, we need to improvise our India policy, especially. In the past, we have gone an extra mile to engage India in peace, to promote regionalism and peace and harmony in South Asia. But there was simply no reciprocity from Indian side. For instance, we went an extra mile, opened the Kartarpur corridor. We tried to have some other confidence-building measures with India, but simply there was no positive response from India. Now what we need to do is, since India is not changing its stance, India is becoming more assertive and expansionist with each passing day. We need to improvise our stance on India. We need to be more assertive. We need to change our strategic posture and try to respond to India in the same coin. That's the only solution that we are left with now.
But don't you think it will further escalate the situation in the region between two nuclear powers? I would say we can add now Kashmir is kind of a contested territory between three nuclear powers. Is it correct?
Certainly that could lead to it, but any sign of weakness from Pakistan could also encourage India to become more authoritative with regards to Pakistan. This is what we have been experiencing for last 8 years, to be precise. I certainly do not advocate a full-fledged war or a military confrontation, but at least at the level of rhetoric, we need to respond to India in the same coin.
We need to
and
respond.
whenever there are ceasefire violations from India, we have seen that Pakistan army has given a befitting response to India. So this is what Pakistan is doing at the moment, and under the circumstances, this is the most suitable and appropriate policy.
True that. We do need to actually respond in the similar coin, and we have seen that the strike last year, 27 February as well, the befitting response was there, and then India probably, they analyzed, and their defense analysts kept on saying that it wasn't, they were also agreeing to Pakistan's narrative. The people who were literally blunt, they were saying that it was not an easy thing, and whatever they did was fabricated much. Now this fabrication is coming not only from their regime, the chest-thumping, jingoistic statements all the time, telling we won, and then there is this media warfare going on, building a narrative all the time, mutilating facts, be it Galwan, be it line of actual control, be it line of control, be it otherwise. So how do you see the world buying India's narrative? Because we do not see much pressure on India even now. After the abrogation of Article 370, Kashmiris are still there for almost 11 months without the basic facilities, the internet for that matter. We are seeing every single day there are detentions being done. We are seeing people are being martyred. And how do you see that the world is buying their narrative? They're still able to actually sell it somehow, no?
Well, that's a very pertinent point. And I would like to reiterate that Indian policy, Indian media, Indian intelligentsia, and Indian security establishment has been hijacked by ultra-religious nationalists of Hindutva forces. But despite that, the world, especially the Western world, is not paying any attention, and they're still buying the Indian narrative. It is mainly because there is a convergence between United States of America and India to contain China. And in containing China, United States of America is looking the other way when there is a rising threat of Hindutva in India. And this rising threat, it's not only a threat to Indian social fabric, but this is a threat to regional and global peace. Just imagine a nuclear-armed India being ruled by those Hindutva forces who consider all the minorities outsider,
Yes.
who subscribe to a Nazi agenda, who are puritanical in their approach, who are exclusive in their approach. If this was the case in Pakistan, if Pakistan hypothetically was even ruled by a party subscribing to a religious agenda, West would have gone crazy on it, and you would
Absolutely.
have seen a propaganda war against Pakistan.
Absolutely.
But same is happening in India. West is paying no attention because it's all war of narratives, and West is willing to compromise the rise of a religious fundamentalist regime in India just to counter China.
Yes. So there are a couple of questions. One, that to counter China, we've seen a couple of American analysts, they've been very vocal about it, that what the expectation was, particularly in Galwan sector, from India, the American expectations, they were not fulfilled. How true is that?
Well, these voices are on the margin of American policymaking community. Those who are little critical of India, whether it's regards to their inability to respond to China, whether it is regarding the rise of Hindutva. These policies are not, these voices, they're not part of mainstream politics.
They're not the
in United States
policymakers.
of America at the moment. So society, yes, there is a response from the Western societies who are concerned about the rise of ultranationalism in India, Indian inability, but on the political and policy level, I think there is still simply no reaction or response from the West.
So we do see a major alliance change, not a change rather. We've been an ally of China for a very long time, and do we see some more tensions here, because Pakistan is with China, and then India and the USA and the South China Sea tensions? How do you see that?
Well, Pakistan came under tremendous pressure during last 8 to 10 years specifically because of China-Pakistan economic corridor.
Yes.
The United States and its allies, they are simply not happy with China expanding its economic interests worldwide, especially in Pakistan. So
Yes.
they have pressurized Pakistan. They have fomented and initiated a propaganda campaign against China-Pakistan economic corridor, terming terming CPAC a debt trap and, terming China as a colonial power. But this is exactly what United States of America and West has been doing during last 60 years. They have trapped the entire developing world in their debts. They have colonized the entire third world, and now pot is basically calling the kettle black. This is the situation now, and I think Pakistan is playing its card very carefully. We are trying to strike balance between China and US, but when it comes to take side, we know who was on our side when we were in critical need of economic and military support, and it was only China which has always helped Pakistan on critical junction.
So, brilliant take, sir, brilliant take. So you've mentioned the propaganda warfare again from the U.S. as well, and I think India is following the similar footstep. How do you see that, that's going to be my last question, sir, thank you for your time. How do you see that, how do we have to actually fight it out? Because there's this huge propaganda campaign going on, their pilot falls down here, the aircraft crashes, but they build a narrative that he's given Veer Chakra because he's some sort of Superman and he did something amazing. So how do we fight this narrative war? Because somehow globally yet we are unable to prove our point that India has been infiltrating in Balochistan. We see that behind the PTM movement they are trying to create issues. We see that just if there is this electricity shortage, their anchors start telling there's some airstrike in Karachi going on, and Karachi people are very afraid. So the common people who are not familiar with this international relations subject, and they do get afraid as well. How do you see, how should our media fraternity or our politicians or lobbies for their matter or IR experts, how should we fight this?
Well, it's $1 million question, and I'm afraid there's no simple answer to that. To understand and respond to your question, one must understand the amount of resources that the Americans and its allies have invested in propaganda machine worldwide.
Okay.
We have seen that they have invested heavily in terms of so-called civil society organizations. Private media channels have been receiving ample and heavy funding from the U.S. and Western embassies, including in Pakistan. So in Pakistan, the state media is no doubt playing its role. We have seen Radio Pakistan continuously, systematically campaigning for Kashmir cause, trying to bring out, expose Indian atrocities in Kashmir in a systematic and sophisticated manner. But the private media in Pakistan is yet to play that role. And it's mainly because they have vested interests in protecting the American neo-colonialism. They are the beneficiaries of the American neo-colonial
well, thank you so much, Dr.
Please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Khurram Iqbal. It was actually a pleasure talking to you. A lot of learning and definitely a wonderful insight. It was me, Sadia Sitar. Thanks a ton for joining in. We'll definitely be bothering you again.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Well, how was the discussion? We've been talking about this thing, and we have seen...
There are certain things as far as India is concerned. Why India is the apple of the eye for the West is because the economic and strategic relationship which it shares with the West. The United States of America is in a strategic relationship. Most of its trade is then again between Europe. Recently, we have seen that there is going to be some 10 billion investment from Google in India for that matter. So we have to look at both the economic relationship between India and the West, and same goes for economic relationship between India and China.
Yes.
I think that these are the dynamics of political economy which needs to be played in order to understand the state behavior, because behavior is not just a term which is related to the humankind. It is also equally applicable to the state structure as well. So in that context, in order to understand the complete comprehensive you can say behavioral responses, we have to understand how these economic and political dynamics are playing at most in this context. The war of narrative, if we talk about war of narrative, we need to have an international standard English-speaking channel. Without doing so, with the help of public-private collaboration or whatsoever, you have to have that in order to push forward your opinion in the Western country. Public opinion is the key. In the strong democracies, public opinion plays a very important role. Indian media influences public opinion in the Western countries, and it has its own perks. we are unable to, generate the same results as far as.
Brilliant take. That's a brilliant take.
So
Shiraz.
that is what is
That's a
missing
brilliant
as
take,
far as
Shiraz.
as far as we are concerned. Prime Minister Imran Khan tried to come up with this idea, with Turkey and Malaysia
Yes.
in the recent past, where they wanted to have a collective collaboration as far as this channel is concerned, because that is the only way. Iran has its own channel, which disperses news globally. Similarly, same goes for other countries as well. So we have to devise these kind of strategies in order to address what we want to achieve, because narrative building, it is a slow and painful process, but once achieved, it has its own perks.
And like Dr. Khurram mentioned, probably we need to have an aggressive tone as well. We just cannot go and we cannot just go all the time subtle with everything. Not aggressive means that dramatic aggressive which we see from Indian side.
What I see is, as Dr. Khurram also mentioned, was the balanced approach. What we see on Pakistan's side at the moment, we are well aware of the fact that we cannot go into a war which results into a nuclear catastrophe.
But assertion is inevitable. That's what you mentioned.
That's what we have done. That's India tried to interfere or somehow damage our sovereignty, challenge our sovereignty, and then we replied. The reply was befitting. Reply was heard globally and within the Indian society and structure as well. So in this context, I would say we have been able to produce the results by when we say we want peace, it has a global, you can say, reflection. It has a global reaction. And when we say that we want, we will respond if challenged. That is another story. So we are defenders in this context, and India is the aggressor. So if we are able to instill this and imprint this in the international public opinion that India is the aggressor, that is where the success story lies. At the moment, what we see, practically it comes to, later during any event, that India turns out to be the aggressor, and once that is done, the public opinion changes internationally. So we have to target the public opinion, we have to improve our economy, we have to improve our economic sustainability, and we have to become the jugular vein of the economic activity in the region.
That's inevitably important. In so many points we've discussed, we've missed two major points which we'll quickly go through. One was that India wanted to isolate Pakistan at international level. Are we isolated?
I think India is isolated.
India is isolated. Brilliant take. Then we have Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi, who said that Iran's inclusion, which I just mentioned a while back, in CPAC and peace in Afghanistan will benefit every country of the region. Iran is included in CPAC, and again, it didn't go well with India.
Yes, India has been thrown out of the Chabahar project, the train project.
It didn't
as well.
Go well with
Yes, now China is contributing as far as that project is concerned in Iran. So it's as a sister port, it can collaboratively play a very beneficial role.
Wonderful. So, listeners, that was pretty much it from today. We did discuss Prime Minister Imran Khan's inauguration campaign for Clean Green Pakistan today in Kahuta, which definitely is going to be very beneficial if we all participate and help it out. We did discuss about Pakistan's commitment to improve bilateral ties with all South Asian countries, also that India is hell-bent on destroying the regional peace, and definitely we have to come up with the strategy, as Mr. Shiraz straightforwardly and directly pointed out, that we have to have a proper English channel to actually counter the propaganda campaign going on. Despite we're doing all good, somehow the fruits are not there. Strong economy is also going to be the backbone. As far as CPAC is concerned, there are good developments. Thank you so much, listeners, from Perspective. We'll be talking to you tomorrow, same time, same channel. I'd like to thank my team here at the end of the show. IT person, Mr. Arif, studio engineer, Mohammed Khurshid Khan, coordinator, Mehboob Bhutta, producer, Hamad Kiani, and executive producer, Mr. Tariq Chaudhry. Myself, I'm Sadia Sattar, and with me was
Muhammad Shiraz.
Thank you so much, listeners. Allah Hafiz.